everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep into strength and conditioning today. You guys sent in a ton of questions about this after our last episode, so we decided to check out that YouTube video you suggested, the one with Dr. Bryan Mann on the Power Athlete channel.
Yeah. Dr. Mann, he's great.
Right, 20 years working with athletes of all levels, he has to have some serious insights.
What's so interesting about Dr. Mann is his emphasis on the individual.
Yeah.
So much research focuses on averages, but he points out that nobody's really average.
Yeah. He actually tells this story about a statistician who drowned in a river that was, on average, only 3 feet deep.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Makes you think, right? You can't just blindly follow some generic training plan. You have to consider the individual.
Definitely. And he talks about context being crucial for any training plan, too.
You told us you're training for a marathon, but you're super stressed at work. So how does that impact your training?
Exactly. Dr. Mann would say ignoring that stress could lead to, setbacks or even injuries.
Makes you wonder about all those training apps out there that just have you hit follow.
Oh, for sure. He even had this athlete he worked with. This guy was 240 pounds, could jump 40 inches like crazy strong, but didn't fit the typical velocity norms they used.
So what, even the measurements can be misleading?
It just proves that everyone's an N of 1. Your program needs to be tailored to you, not some average.
And speaking of individual responses, his research on stress and injuries is just fascinating.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. He actually found that academic stress led to more injuries in athletes.
Oh.
Yeah. He studied football players at Missouri State. And get this, their injury rates were higher during midterms and finals than during training camp.
Well, wait, so even good stress, that pregame hype, can be harmful.
It's not so much about good stress versus bad stress, but how we handle it. Dr. Mann uses this cool analogy about zebras, from that book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's about how zebras, they experience that short burst of stress when they're running from a lion or something.
Exactly. And once the danger is gone, they just go back to chilling.
But we humans, we tend to ruminate. We keep that stress response going way longer than we need to.
Right.
It's actually brilliant. I never thought about it like that. But it makes total sense now why that chronic stress from work or family or whatever can affect your performance in the gym.
And he's talking about the HPA axis here. It's like your body's central stress response system. So when it's always activated, it messes with your sleep, your muscle recovery, pretty much everything.
Wow. So if stress is this silent performance killer, what can we do about it?
But this is where his research on family comes in. And it gets really interesting. He found that athletes from stable, supportive families were actually better at handling stress and avoiding injuries.
So you're saying it's not just about managing stress on your own, but having a strong support system.
Exactly. It goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We all need to feel safe and loved. And when those needs are met, we're better equipped to handle anything.
Like it's a buffer. You mentioned you had that injury last year, right? Do you think maybe stress played a role in that?
It's possible. Dr. Mann's research suggests that. It could. It's definitely something to think about.
It's crazy how connected everything is, huh? Stress, family, performance. It's not just about lifting weights.
Totally. And, Dr. Mann, he actually pushes back against that whole no pain, no gain thing.
Yeah.
He's really big on autoregulation.
Autoregulation.
Yeah. Basically letting the athlete's body kind of dictate the training pace. Instead of rigidly sticking to a plan.
So listening to your body, but how do you put that into practice? Wouldn't that make it easy to slack off?
It's not about slacking off. It's about being smart. He calls it fluid periodization. So being flexible and adapting your training based on how you're feeling that day.
So some days you push harder if you're feeling good, but other days you back off if you need to.
Exactly. Our bodies are always changing, right? Our energy levels, we have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
And if we ignore that, it can actually work against us.
That makes a lot of sense. I remember you were telling me about how this really resonated with you, right? How you...
Yeah. I used to think I had to push to the absolute limit every single workout.
Huh.
I kind of learned the hard way that sometimes less is more.
So Dr. Mann also talks about eccentric training, which I feel it kind of goes against a lot of traditional weightlifting advice.
Think of it like lowering a weight slowly. So it's that lengthening part of the muscle contraction.
Yeah.
When you do a squat, it's that downward motion.
Okay.
It's a lot harder than it looks, and it builds a different type of strength.
He actually mentions this example of a women's soccer team. They added just 2 sessions of eccentric training per week, and they had these massive improvements like their speed, agility, their jumping,
Which
everything.
makes sense, right? You think about the demands of soccer, all that sprinting and cutting and jumping, it's all those powerful eccentric contractions.
So you're basically training your muscles to what, like decelerate more efficiently?
Exactly.
Hmm.
But here's the catch. Too much of a good thing can actually backfire. He found that excessive eccentric training can lead to a decrease in power.
Oh, so it's like finding that sweet spot, right? Enough to benefit, but not so much that you overdo it.
Exactly. And it brings up another important point he makes about the human element of coaching.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not just about the physical training, it's about connecting with your athletes, building that relationship.
I remember he talks about this book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect.
John C. Maxwell, yeah.
Right. About how important it is to find common ground.
Yeah. He talks about this acronym FORM, Family, Occupation, Recreation, Message.
Okay.
And it's really just a way to remember how to, connect with anyone, especially athletes. Find out about their families, their hobbies, what motivates them.
So like seeing the whole person, not
Mhm.
just the athlete.
Exactly. I remember you saying something similar about, your coaching philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with him on that. Because when athletes feel understood, they're much more likely to buy into the whole training process.
It's not about just taking orders.
They're part of a team.
Right. Makes me think of self-determination theory. It says humans have these basic psychological needs for competence, relatedness, and autonomy.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me.
So competence is feeling capable and effective. Relatedness is about feeling connected to others. And autonomy is having that sense of control over your actions.
Got it.
So when those needs are met, people are more motivated, more engaged.
It's not just going through the motions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you apply this to coaching, it's about creating an environment where athletes feel like they're contributing, like they're part of something bigger, and they have a say in their own development.
That's powerful. It's not just about pushing their physical limits, it's about empowering them.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? That idea of the whole athlete, not just, muscles and movements.
It really is the bigger picture.
Yeah. Mindset, motivation, the whole support system.
Yeah. And actually, Dr. Mann makes this point about how much we still don't know.
Really?
He says, if in 20 years we're still talking about the same stuff, we've basically failed.
Uh,
Like, he really wants to see people, pushing the boundaries, experimenting, challenging the status quo.
so it's not about having all the answers, but asking the right questions.
Exactly. And he actually emphasizes that you don't need a fancy lab or a PhD to contribute.
Yeah.
Like, he wants everyone to collect data, track their progress, analyze their results.
I like that.
It's about being curious and wanting to improve.
It's like we're all part of this big experiment,
In a way, we are.
to figure out what works.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of how you were saying you're always like tweaking your training programs based on the latest research, athlete feedback.
Oh, yeah, constantly. There's always something new to learn.
Yeah.
And sometimes those breakthroughs come from, the most unexpected places.
So what do you think? What will be the big game changers in sports performance in the coming decades?
Well, I mean, technology is obviously going to play a huge role.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Wearable sensors, AI-powered training apps, personalized nutrition plans based on your DNA.
That's wild. It's like,
Yeah.
imagine having a virtual coach who can just analyze your every move, give you feedback right there.
Right, like having Dr. Mann in your pocket. But I think even beyond technology, the biggest advances will come from, like, a deeper understanding of the mind-body connection.
Okay.
We're already seeing how things like mindfulness and sleep and stress management can have such a huge impact.
It is all connected, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You can have the perfect program, but if you're not mentally and emotionally in the right place, it's not going to matter.
So true.
This deep dive was a great starting point.
Mhm.
But now it's up to you guys to take these insights and really explore. Like, what resonated with you? What are you going to try differently in your own training or your coaching?
Keep learning, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
Exactly.
Who knows, maybe one of you listening will be the one to revolutionize sports performance. That's it for today. See you next time.